What up, everybody? Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee Hour with Paul. Thanks for joining me, taking the time out of your day to join me here on Coffee Hour. We are streaming live on multiple platforms, so whether you're watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, or even over on Fast Track's Tube or fasttracksystem.com. Either way, we appreciate you joining us here for a Monday, getting your week started. Special day for me. It is my birthday. Whoop, whoop. Again, one day older, okay, and I look it, but feel good. Everything is good, and so just glad to wake up in the morning and be here with you, and get your week started, get your day started here on Coffee Hour. All right. So as always, folks, I live vicariously through those that watch us. Oh, by the way, we are also streaming behind the scenes again on TikTok. I don't know if y'all remember that I have what's called a rational thinking board. And first step, they had me remove all the people that were blocked, except for those that I really insisted. And then secondly, they said we go back to the lives. But many of you have been happy to know my board of directors will not let me do anything political over on TikTok. So it is what it is, I guess, because I get banned enough over there anyway. So by popular demand, and one of the members of the board likes TikTok. So he said, Paul, you got to go back to streaming it. That's how he used to watch it in the morning. And that way he could keep me in check. That was his remarks. So thanks for joining me here this morning. And for those behind the scenes over on TikTok, you get to see I guess all you see is me and the mic and the board. So I guess I would say, what's the point? Come on over to the live stream so you can see the screen. That type of thing. We are streaming on all platforms. Again, every day, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Okay. So hopefully you join us. And if you have a topic that you want us to discuss, with us, then you can be involved in that. All you have to do is go to paulabernathy.com. And on paulabernathy.com, it's a very simple form. You don't have to just put a code question in there. You can actually use the form for anything you want. You can ask us questions. You can post recommendations for a show. You can ask anything you want. That's the portal that we use. Now, in the future, we may be changing to a separate, but right now, our partnership with Wix is very strong. So Wix provides this for free. And so that's what we have, and that's what we're going to be utilizing, that feature. Also, for those that did not see, oh, and by the way, in the comments, whatever platform you're on, except for TikTok, whatever platform you're on, let me know who you are, where you're from, what you got going on, whether you're in our programs or not. And I will mention we have 2 sales going on right now until midnight tonight. And that is the 2023 Enhanced is at 25% off. And then our 2023 Grounding and Bonding is 20% off. So the coupon codes are basically 25 OFF, all caps, for the Enhanced program. Excuse me, still getting over a cold. And then for the Grounding and Bonding, it's just 20 OFF. Now, the coupons will only work on those specific courses. Okay, so it will not work where you can get the 25 off on the Grounding and Bonding. It doesn't work that way. And it only today we're offering them for the 2023 editions, not for the 2020 or Mastering the NEC or any of the other courses. So if you have and you said, dude, Paul, I just bought it a couple days ago. Well, it's like discount coupons at Walmart. The prices are always rolling. So can't do a whole bunch for you. Again, is what it is. But that's what we got going on today if you're interested in those coupons. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't shout out to everybody and tell you that over here at the Fast Tracks Tube, we have added a few more new videos, and a couple more should be going up today. So that's good news. Over on Fast Tracks Tube, we've got some new videos that are up there. More to come. Also, we launched over the weekend a program inside of ECA called Pull Spec. May or may not be of interest to you, may or may not be an interest to your company. You may do your own pull calculations. You may have your engineer do them. But working for a major wire and cable manufacturer, I found that engineers that I deal with, large companies, seem to not want to do the pull calculations. So we created a program, and we've done so many pull calcs that it's just about the ease of getting them done. So if you're in connection, and I don't expect you to need these on small, even light projects, but anytime you have an application where you question a very long run, or you're doing a medium or large project where you may have a lot of pulls and things like that, it can be very time consuming. We offer a service for that. So look for that to evolve. And there's other things. But anyway, that's the pull spec. So you might have seen that. Okay. Before I get started in today's topic, what we're going to be talking about today is bends. We're going to be talking about bends, not what you get when you go underwater and you come up too fast. We're talking about bending of conductors. There's a big, people out there question it all the time. They go, Paul, is there a bending radius requirement on single insulated conductors? And that's a yes and no answer. There's a yes in the manufacturer's recommendation. No, is it code? No. If it's over 1,000 volts? Yes. So is there a bending radius requirement, a maintained minimum bending radius requirement for cables? Yes. So it applies to NM cable, MC cable, AC cable, trade cable, MI cables, all those type of things. And again, we're doing it so that we don't damage the conductors inside, much less blow out the back of the wiring system like an MC or an AC cable. So we'll talk about all that. We'll cover everything today. But that's what we got going on today. Let's go over and shout out to our friends. Paul, good morning. Glad to have you here as always. Good morning, Jonathan. Glad to have you here as well. Good morning. Marlon, glad to have you here. Welcome. Thanks for joining us to the show. A lot of happy birthdays out there to me. Appreciate you. A lot of them out there. I won't be redundant, but I'll say out there to all of you, thanks for shouting out. Ironically, it was not ironic. I guess it's not ironically. My wife's birthday was 2 days ago, and we always celebrate on the 29th, but hers is on the 28th. Mine's on the 30th. Kind of funny how we always just celebrate. So we celebrated yesterday. Did we do anything? Absolutely not. She wasn't in the mood, so wasn't feeling good. So she caught my cold, and now it's her turn to go through all the coughing and stuff. So anyway, let's see here. What do we got? Cray Cray Hoping everybody gets a win today. And by the way, today is the last day in this quarter to win on the spin. We will be doing the drawing, but today is your last chance. So make sure you put that hashtag win in there. And then we'll do a live show on one day where we'll actually draw everything like we did one other time. We draw it out of the actual hat, this hat. And so I'll keep you updated on that. And then once we do that, you'll have a special, those that win will have a special email that they'll send their information to. So they're going to be very simple to do it this time, and it's going to be a lot quicker response now that we have somebody that's working on that full time. If you're anybody out there who knows anybody that would like to add stuff to the giveaways, like to be able to give something like what we do with the wire waffle. Okay, so Hunter has given us some of these to give away. I don't know how many more we still have left, but we'll see. Got the wire waffle. You can win those on the show. But if any manufacturer out there wants us to give away some racketeer, you want us to give away something on the show, we're more than happy to put it to the wheel. Reach out to us if you know somebody you're in the know and they have a product and they want to add it to our giveaways and get that exposure on the morning show. As well as, remember, these shows replay and they live infinitely on the internet. So again, it's like great advertisement for your product. We don't charge Hunter for this. These are just part of the giveaway. I don't charge sponsorships for that stuff. Anyway, thank you for the happy birthday wishes, everybody. Good morning. Frank, good morning. Glad to have you here. Let's see here. What do we got, everybody? Thomas, good morning. Thank you, sir. Good morning to you too as well. What's up, Jay? Good morning. Glad to have you here. Who else we got in here? Pedro, good morning. Glad to have you in here, Pedro. Join us. Let's see. Rob, joining us from northern Iowa. Thanks for joining us, Rob. David, CMECP in the house. Good morning, David. Glad to have you here. What do we got here? We got Red Dog.
Big Dog.
Dog's in the house. Red Dog, the license plates, the jig that we're doing is supposed to come first of next week. So I'll get with y'all what you want on your plate. These license plates are going to be cool as all get out because we can actually do them in really good definition now with the fiber laser. And the jig, because it's too big for the laser, it allows us to do segments and the jig keeps it accurate so we can do continuous pieces. So that's what we're waiting on. So that'll be exciting. Same for you, Manny. What's up, Manny? Glad to have you here. Wearing that lime green Code Nerd. Welcome in the house. Todd, another CMECP is joining us this morning. Thanks for joining us, Todd. Glad to have you here. By the way, guys, anybody has any questions while we're going through this? If anything you want to ask, I'll do my best to answer. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you to send it to paulabernathy.com. If I know the answer right off the top of my head, I'll give you that answer, that type of thing. But if I don't know, I'll tell you to go to paulabernathy.com and submit it so that I can do what a normal NEC consultant does. And we'll look at your question and research and answer and give it back to you. That's what a consultant does, by the way. If you see these experts out there who are just cranking out code references, and we do this, it's more like a parlor trick than anything because we do these over and over again. Reality is a good consultant. Everybody asks me, what does it take to be a consultant? A good consultant is a person that can look at something, analyze it, and formulate a response based on factual information. That's literally what I would say the definition of a consultant is, okay? Not to shoot from the hip. So I do like to give advice on things that I hear, and I do this when I'm doing my shows and seminars and things like that. I know a lot of things that I can rattle off, but at the end of the day, if you want a definitive answer on something, and I can't give you that live, then I want to make sure that I get you a response. So that's what paulabernathy.com is good for. It's not an email address. It's paulabernathy.com, a website. You go to it and you fill it out, okay? It's also accessible, folks, from the mobile app. Okay, so there you go. Let's see here. Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Good morning, Skyattle, or Seattle, or Seattle, or however we say it. Thank you for the birthday wishes, everybody. Angel, thank you, sir. Glad to have you here this morning. Let's see here. Frank got a question this morning. What's the question? What's the difference between running solid and stranded? Well, typically what happens is that we want to run stranded on 8 gauge and larger, and the NEC calls for 8 gauge and larger to be stranded. Now, the exception to that rule would be for something like where it calls out like an 8 or a 4 or something that's solid bare for example, that you would use for like a grounding electrode, ground ring, things like that is different, right? But when it comes to pulling it in raceways, the circular mill is the same. It's just the stranding count's going to be different based on whatever class of stranding it is. Class B, Class C. You start getting more flexible. You get into the eyes where it has a bunch of strands, makes it really super flexible because of the number of strands. But it's still a 4/0 would be a 4/0. It's just a difference. Right? You're not going to find solid in those large sizes. One, because it wouldn't bend. And so you can't pull it in a raceway. But as far as the standard goes, typical solid, for example, copper is ASTM B3. And when you start getting into the stranding classes, the number of strands and all that kind of stuff, for building wire, we go ASTM B8, right? And then we get into other stranding type of classes like ASTM B787, which is a 19 strand. There's two different sizes in it. The 7 in the middle are the same size, but then the next layer out, they alternate in size, okay? And it does give a little more flexibility, okay? That type of thing. So again, stranding for pulling in raceways, obviously because of the number of bends and things like that. Now, can you pull solid 14, solid 12, solid 10 in raceways? Absolutely you can. We do it all the time. Okay. In fact, you can buy MC cable in stranded or solid up to a certain size. Then it starts kicking over to the stranded because of the flexibility, that type of thing. Does that make sense? If you have any follow-up question to that, Frank, please feel free to ask a follow-up. I'm more than happy to answer it. Let's see here. Let's see, Marlon. Let's see, we successfully got our sponsors to purchase wire waffles here in the Tampa Bay area. All right, there you go. Shout out to Hunter and them. See, Hunter, if you're watching, our followers definitely help promote your products. So again, there's a benefit to getting on Coffee Hour, okay? Get in front of all of our electricians that join us. Let's see here. Good morning, Brandon from Houston, Texas. Again, congratulations to Brandon, full-fledged master in the house. There you go. Let's see. You're most welcome, Marlon. I'm glad you find a use for them. I'd rather people do this than to do 312.5C issue and try to just bring all those NMs through one KO. And there's electricians that say, oh, no harm, no foul. I've never had a problem. I get it. A lot of the violations that you do in the NEC are not going to cause a problem in your lifetime or my lifetime. But chances are it has. And I tell you, the quickest way to get into the NEC, anybody ever ask what's the quickest way to get something in? Well, one is death. So if a person dies, a manufacturer will find out why. And if they can find a reason to get their product in there for even if it's one death, then they'll do it. This has nothing to do with that, by the way. This just solves a need, okay? But people ask me all the time about the 210.8F outlets outdoors and why the GFCI requirement came about. That's because somebody got killed reaching over an outdoor air conditioning unit. Now, what they don't tell you is the backstory. The manufacturers jumped all over, it needs to be GFCI, but what they don't tell you, the backstory. So the backstory with that is that the HVAC equipment wasn't grounded properly anyway. So it was already messed up. It was already not done to code. But since somebody got hurt or whatever, manufacturers jumped all on it. Now, I'm not yelling at the manufacturers. I'm just saying that's the easiest way to get into the code. Another example would be lighting outlets in the crawl space. Lighting outlets in a crawl space, obviously receptacles are required to be GFCI protection under 210.8A for dwellings, let's say. But when it went to lighting outlets, 120 volts or less lighting outlets in a garage, that came about, like your keyless and stuff, that came about because of an incident in a crawl space. And there's no quicker way to get that into the code. And you can bet your ass that if a GFCI manufacturer can sniff out another way to get a device expanded into the code, they'll do it. I'm not saying that being mean to the manufacturer. I get it. They save lives. I total 100% agree that GFCIs save lives. But you cannot look me straight in the face and tell me you don't see opportunity. If you see opportunity, you seize it. I get it. I understand. Okay, this was opportunity seized by Hunter, and he did it. So I get it. I understand. We do the same thing with training. We see a need in the industry, and we create something for it. Again, pull specs, the same thing. I've worked at a major wire and cable manufacturer for over 11 years. I engulfed myself. Y'all know me. I engulfed myself to learn everything I can learn about wiring, cable, installation, and application. And what I saw was manufacturers were not doing pull calculations anymore. They're leaving it to the electricians and the big, large companies like Design Electric and the Power Design and all that. They were being forced to have to do them themselves. And then the large manufacturer, the large bit like the Amazons and the Googles, they didn't feel comfortable with them. Like, well, you're the electrician. I imagine you would do the calculation and and so I got to see that it needed a third party. So that's why we started that. Again, it's just an add-on to our company. Whether it grows big or not, it's irrelevant. It's an add-on to a service that we provide here. We already do consulting and all that anyway, so that's all it is. It's just an add-on service. It's not something special. Anyway, and not every pull needs a pull calculation, by the way. So again, all right. Okay, so let's see what else we got in here. Tara's in the house. Tara, there you go. Jonathan said it'd be nice if they make a smaller. We've recommended to them to make them for 1 inch, to make them for 1 1/4. You can put 4 in 1, whatever. We've recommended that to them. I am sure since they've got this and they've got a patent for this and this design, I am more than sure they're already working on those type of things. Okay, it makes sense. Why would you do that? And you've heard me make a recommendation to them before is they ought to make a companion sleeve that snaps over this. Okay, that type of thing. But either way, so they can go into the wall, that type of scenario. All right. Anyway, let's go on and talk about some bending radius applications today. So one of the first things that I want to look at is, okay, so here's the first question that people ask. And I'll go over to the chat in case somebody wants to ask a question here. Okay. Is there a bending requirement or a maintained bending requirement on, let's say, conductors that are 1,000 volts or less? So is this a yes or no question? So is there an NEC requirement for these single insulated conductors? So if you're training them in a raceway, in a cabinet, or bringing them over to a breaker, or you're moving them around in a switch box, and all, don't you all know that whether it's 14 gauge, 12 gauge, 10 gauge, whatever, if you put them in a device box, what are y'all doing? You're training them back and you're pushing them as far back as you can in the box, right? Never concerns anybody about the bends there, right? Nobody's like, oh, crap, I got to be careful. Those type of things. Nobody ever thinks about that. And the reality is there is no maintained bending radius on single insulated conductors, 1,000 volts or less, okay? So you can go hunt the NEC all you want. You can go look. You can swear I'm wrong. You can do whatever you want. You're not going to find it in there, okay? Now, where may you find this information? Well, a lot of the manufacturers, I know that we do at Encore Wire and Prismium, we will give you a recommended maintained bending radius on single insulated conductors. We'll give you a recommendation, and it's from the manufacturers. Now, everybody goes, well, if the manufacturer gives you a recommendation, then that's code. That's the spec. That's what it's got to be, and you got to follow the manufacturer. That is not 100% correct, because as a manufacturer of wiring cable, we can give recommendations. That does not mean that they were submitted as part of our listing. So it's not installing it in accordance with 110.3b by reading some kind of reference that we give you as a manufacturer of wiring cable, right? Whether it's Southwire, whether it's Encore Wire or Prismium or Zero or Service Wire or anybody. That's simply a recommendation, right? Because you're supposed to install conductors without damaging them. So that is in the code, right? So you can't damage the conductors during installation. Now, if you bend them too tight, you do run the risk of it cracking the back in the insulation. And again, you could have a mixture of insulation from the manufacturer that is maybe doesn't have as much plasticizer in it. If it's a PVC material, you could have anything like that could damage it. But smaller conductors like that, the probability of it is very slim. Okay, very slim. Now, so we'll give you a recommendation. That's all it is. It's a recommendation. You do you, boo, as I always say. Just be careful on your install. So when you're bending conductors in gear, Okay, people want to know, okay, so I've got a 480 amp, a 480 volt. Let's say I've got, I don't know, 400 amp gear, whatever I'm doing. And they're routing these conductors, insulated conductors, right? And they're like, well, this is too much of a bend. Again, the NEC does not dictate this. Now, the manufacturing of the equipment is going to give certain clearances from the entry from the raceway into the enclosure to where it terminates. So you've got your requirements in 312.6. You've got all these requirements to make sure you have enough space. Now, most of the manufacturers that make the equipment, they already know where they're putting the panel board inside of a cabinet. They already know the distances they need. And so if you just buy the product and you put everything, you're going to be fine. But sometimes you have to add things like power blocks to an enclosure or a wireway or something. And you got to be careful how you put it. And you got to be very aware of 312.6 so that you have enough room to be able to get that conductor into the actual termination point. Okay. So, but when you buy the equipment already done, it pretty much is taking care of itself, right? Because that's the manufacturer's responsibility in manufacturing the product. Now, when you're training them or moving everything into gear, a lot of times we try to position the entries so that it says nobody likes to sit there and wrestle with 500 kc mil coppers and all this kind of stuff to train them. So we try to be as straight as possible and just have sweeping, that type of thing. But usually because of the size of the equipment, that takes care of itself. Now, when it comes to dealing with over 1,000 volts, that's different. So when we're dealing with conductors, if you're doing an installation, you're dealing with over 1,000 volts, then you have to be very much aware of the requirements in 305. And this is a new section, a new article that was introduced, basically pulled this information out of a previous article and put it into 305. So let's go look at it. Here's 305. So here you see the conductor bending radius. You are not going to see its same counterpart in 300, by the way, which is for the normal wiring. I can show you that real quick. So here's 305, right? And here's the normal general wiring and wiring methods. Okay, you're not going to see it in there. You're going to see it down here in general requirements, wiring methods, and materials rated over 1,000 volt. That's where we're at. Okay. And here's what the rule says. And look, I fully get that there's a lot of you out there in your career. Good morning, Edward. I see you in here. Good morning, Peter. I see you in here. Terrence, I saw you get in here. AJ, I saw you come in here. Rob, I see you in here. So a lot of people will think that there is a bending radius requirement for single insulated conductors. Okay, it's not. Okay, it's not from that perspective. But when you get over 1,000 volts, you're going to be going into 305. And so in 305, here's what it says. It says the conductor shall not bend to a radius less than. So when it says that, it's not tighter. So it has to be at least a radius. Okay. And of course, people ask me all the time, what's the radius? Well, this is the conductor, right? So I'm bending it. This is the radius. Okay. The start of the bend to the end of the bend, the inside radius of the bend. Now, what happens to a conductor when you overbend it? Just so you know, even if you don't have a bending requirements for under 1,000 volts or less, how can you still get in trouble on an installation if something fails and a manufacturer comes out? Well, the manufacturer will come out and say that you installed this, and we use very broad language here. We'll go back and look at the requirements in 110, and what you've done is you've actually damaged the insulation. And it might be evidence because of a crack on the backside. It might be evident because of on the inner radius, inner side of the inner part of the bend, where you're bending it. What happens is it creates something called a caterpillar effect. It looks like a caterpillar. Now that can cause the insulation to split, right? Or blow out on the backside. Now let me give you some advice here because I get this all the time. You're not going to do this in a raceway, right? A raceway, you can't, unless you totally screw up the bending on a raceway or a tubing system like EMT, you're not going to worry about the bends. Now, you got to worry about your pull and sidewall pressure and raceway fill, and those are not the only factors that affect a pull. In big commercial applications, I can tell you without a doubt of the major failures that I've seen happen with wire in a raceway, it's because they did an inaccurate pull calculation. That's the only reason we started pull spec, because I work for a wire and cable manufacturer, and I see the fact that people just don't do them anymore. Then we're not talking about your small 14, 12s, 10s, all that. We're talking when you start getting to 1/0 and larger in long runs with bends and awkward scenarios. You've seen these pictures on social media where the bends look like it's magical. Okay, that looks pretty and all, but when you start getting up in larger sizes, you start getting up to things that impact things more, like for feeder applications and reliability and service applications. And that is when it's better to get some kind of third party to do the pull analysis, because you need to have something as a contractor to hang your hat on. The owner wants some assurance, right? And the inspector wants to be able to look at a piece of paper and go, oh, I see it, a certificate of accuracy. So that's something that's new for the industry, not new in pull calcs, but new when it comes to a certificate of accuracy. That's something that we've launched. Nobody else has ever done that. And so the only way you can get that is to do third party. So that's kind of why we did that, okay? And we're offering that service. It's not for everybody, okay? I get it. You small contractors, residentials, you have no need for this type of scenario, okay? It's just for big projects, medium and large size scale projects with a lot of raceways, a lot of runs, and you just want to have that peace of mind. That's all that's for. Okay, so if we go back real quick to the code so I can show you. So it can't be less than 8 times. So we're going to be, that's why I call it a maintained bending radius, because again, tighter than that puts undue stress onto the conductors itself, especially when you're dealing with over 1,000 volts. And the other reason for that is when you're dealing with over 1,000 volts, you also bring in a lot of other stressors involved. Because remember, voltage is pressure. So we start creeping up, and this is over, so it doesn't minimize what it could be. It could be over voltage, it could be medium voltage, it could be pushing high voltage. It's over 1,000 volts. So there's other factors. You start getting into higher voltages, you start getting into all these things. You get corona effect, you get all these type of things, and depending on the type of insulation, you could introduce treeing effect and all this other type of stuff, and it can affect various readings that you have to take on the conductor, and can affect it by stressing out the insulation and weakening it. And it turns into what's called glassic. I call it glassic. What it is if you bend it too, bigger conductors, if you bend them too tight, you get the caterpillar on the inside, but on the outside, you'll start seeing a real shiny opaque. And what it'll do, and that means that you stretched out the insulation, and that becomes a weak point on the insulation, okay? Yeah, Tom, and I can talk all day about meggering because I think that there's a fallacy when it comes to meggers. I don't believe megging works in many cases, but it most certainly can work if you damage the conductor and stress it out. The only problem is I have to have mutual damage and a return path. If it's metal raceways, I'm great. If everything's non-metallic and I don't have a return path, then I am not a believer that meggers work worth a damn. It's going to give us a value, but I don't believe they work. That'd be a great show if people are interested in me talking about my opinion of doing meg testing, that type of thing, okay? Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, so let's see, let's get back. So let's look here. Okay, all right, so that's the 8 times, okay? And this is for overall, for non-shielded conductors, okay? Just regular conductors. And then, or 12 times the overall diameter for shielded or lead-covered conductors. I don't know that we have lead-covered anymore, but anyway. During or after the installation. Now, it says for multi-conductor or multiplexed single-conductor cables having individually shielded conductors, the minimum bending radius shall be 12 times the diameter of the individual shielded conductors or 7 times the overall diameter, whichever is greater, okay? So this is a bending requirement, okay, that we have for over 1,000 volt applications, okay? Now, that's pretty straightforward, right? So what's up, Ryan? Glad to have you here as well. So if you're talking about the single conductors, you as an electrician, don't worry so much about it except for use some common sense when it's 1,000 volts or less. And obviously, you folks know that pushing conductors back into device boxes is not so much of a big deal to worry about on 14 gauge, 12 gauge, 10 gauge, or even 8 gauge. Things like that. 6 gauge is probably fine. You get to 4 and larger, you do have to be careful, especially if you start getting to the 4s. and probably even in 6s when you're trying to push those devices back and you notice that it's tough to get it back in there. Just be careful you do not damage the installation. Now, here's the good news. When I get calls of damaged installation, it is usually not a concern in the raceway. Okay, the concern is usually at termination. So one of the big calls I get is when they're coming in under a raceway system. They come in, EMT, rigid, whatever it may be, and they come into the switchgear or they come into the enclosure, cabinet, whatever have you, and they're bending it to get it into termination. And then they damage it, right? Okay. So in that scenario I tell people, they say, well, ooh, what do you do? So they reach out to the manufacturer. And again, there is no acceptable way to put insulation back on a conductor when it's gone. However, there is an acceptable way to repair insulation. If it's simply a crack or maybe some of the insulation is lifted up, as long as you can put it back down, then you can repair that conductor. You're not adding insulation, you're repairing it by putting a protective layer on it, whether it's our recommendation is one layer of rubber tape and then electrical tape over that. So like a UL 33 or something like that. But that's inside of a cabinet. You could probably even get away inside of the cabinet with just wrapping it with electrical tape, because you got to remember, you're going to strip the ends anyway to terminate it. So it's inside of a cabinet. No harm, no foul. Everybody wants to, I get the Googles and the data centers and all those, the Amazons, they reach out to us and freak out because the installer got it into a cabinet and they were bending it and something was damaged inside of the cabinet. Now, if they don't know how that happened, I'm more concerned with what damage may be in the raceway. So they really need to analyze the raceway. Was there something in the pool that could have caused this damage? Was it sidewall pressure damage? And that's another reason why PulseSpec came about, is because we kept getting a lot of people who would get damaged conductors at the end, and there was no evidence in the enclosure why that was damaged. So in our scenario, we have a checklist in the PulseSpec that makes sure that you go back and check all the locations. Now, if it's a box-to-box pull, then we definitely recommend a pull calculation on that raceway. We'll tell you how you could fix that conductor, okay? But we'll also tell you that you need to do a calculation, because we need to make sure that it wasn't due to sidewall pressure. And I'm going to tell you right now, depending on the length of the run, sidewall pressure is not so much about crushing the insulation. It's about the fact that there's a serious amount of friction that's at those 90s, at those offsets, and it can burn through insulation really quickly, okay? And cause a hot spot. When we say hot spot in our industry, we're talking about where the insulation is gone and now it's hot and ready, okay? So there is precautions. And when you're in a big project like an Amazon, Google, a big industrial project, you want that peace of mind. So at the end of the day, you want somebody to tell you you can repair that conductor in that box. That's fine, because again, it's in a box. But now you're worried about the raceway. What caused it? And so that is when you want to get a pull calculation and analysis of the run to make sure that it's not even close to any type of issue. And whether you look at it and go, it's fine. You want that piece of paper to tell and be able to give somebody something. Look, no, I'm fine with it. And I want you to know that these folks are fine with it also. So, that's the best we can do. It is a peace of mind thing. Okay, so that's why we did it. And I've been doing those for over 11 years. So I know that it's a need in the industry. Okay, just whether or not people want to do it or not, that's totally up to them. I don't care. But we do it. Now, let's talk about other things. Bending radiuses when it comes to, so we've knocked out that. Oh, I should also mention, if you go, for example, go to uncoolwire.com, okay, and you get, let me show y'all that. Just so you can I don't know if you use an Uncool Wire product or not. I just want to show you, right? I just think it behooves me to show you this. So let me take you there. Okay. I'm not pushing anyone over another, any company over another in this scenario. Okay. I just want to show you. So if you go to Encore's website, you can do this at any manufacturer. Okay. You go up here to your navigation and you go down here and you're going to see products. And the products, you scroll down and you'll see right here, tools and resources, by the way. Okay. Tools and resources. Click tools and resources. And you're going to see a whole lot of calculators, a whole bunch of good stuff. But what I want you to see is, and here's a bunch of sample specs that I've written. Okay, these are just sample specifications that engineers can use as a sample. product information sheets and all that. But what I wanted to show you is right here. See this installation guide? Click on this. This installation guide right here will actually give you recommendations for minimum bending radius on smaller conductors, as well as larger conductors, especially for 1,000 volts or less. We're going to give you recommendations. Obviously, over 1,000, we're going to point you to the NEC, okay? Because we make products, Prismium products, and all kinds of other stuff, that type of thing. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that. That is kind of was a resource, if you will, to check it out. And again, every manufacturer has it. Doesn't matter. Whoever you use will have recommendations, okay? It doesn't make them code. It makes them recommendations. Does it make them UL? A 110.3b issue? No, it does not. We don't submit that stuff when we get our listing. Our wires listed to UL 83, 84, 62, 854, 4, 15, 1569, all types of UL of 1277s, but none of that has anything to do with the bending stuff for that. The NEC covers that. And when it's not in the NEC, we make recommendations, that type of thing. So that's what we got for that. Over 1,000 volts, 300.5.5, 1,000 volts or less, good common sense, and manufacturer's recommendations. Okay. What did Tom say? Tom had an issue here. Tom says, when I was still in the field, the days way before monitoring pulling tension, we burned through PVC 90s on numerous occasions. Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people will put those PVC 90s in there and they don't think about the pull. And everybody thinks metal raceways, but the ease of a PVC, and you think, it'll be fine. You pull right through it. And now, again, that heat buildup can burn through the 90s, but also burn through, there you go, 719 for a non-metallic sheet cable. Absolutely. All those type of things, definitely, you need to take consideration. I think more people don't do pull calculations, same as they don't do load calculations, and they probably should, or at least you should know how to do them. But we make it easy when it comes to the dealing with the pull calculation and boxes. And we'll also make recommendations when you should have a pull box. And if you're in installation, and I have done this in the past, if I determine that your system is going to fail, the run is the high probability of the pull failing, I'm going to let you know. You can do what you want. It's your pull, but I'll let you know. Okay, so we've done some very high profile stuff for GM through Encore and things like that, where I've done these calculations, multiple parallel sets. But we'll make all kinds of recommendations. We're not design engineers, but we'll make the recommendations and things like that. Okay, that's what we're all about. All right, let's get back to the lesson. So let's talk now a little bit about cables. All right, so AC cable, for example. So here's something to remember right here. 3.24. So that's your bending radius in most of your cables. So if you're trying to just do something off memory and you're thinking, okay, I know .30 for most of the wiring method is securing and supporting. What is something else to remember? Well, bending. Well, bending radius rules are going to be in .24, right? So for AC cable, it's 320.24. Y'all know this, 320. Okay, AC cable. When it comes to MC cable, it's 330.24. And this is, again, another example of our Fast Tracks program right here, folks. Whereas you see these chevrons, what do? You stop, drop, and roll over to the NEC and read it. Even if we may pull something verbatim, it's part of the exercise going in and out, okay? There's something to our system. It's not just telling you to flip through the code. We do a system. And if you just follow it and stop trying to rationale it, just follow the system. You will learn the NEC. You can't help but learn, right? And then, of course, for non-metallic sheet cable, we have bending radiuses right here, 334.24 right here. That's for NM cable. Now, you remember what I told you earlier when we're talking radius? This is what we're talking about. The inside bend radius. Basically, y'all know what we do when it comes to different values, things, right? So let me bring it back to me. So we have measuring across a conductor, for example, or across a cable. That would be the diameter. Measuring around it is circumference. From the center out, that is the radius. The pivot point is the center. So the radius is half the diameter, right? So when we tell people about bending cable, and we say maintain a bending radius, this means we just don't want you to bend it too tight, Okay. So if I tell you 6 times a diameter, or 7 times, or 5 times the diameter of the cable, for example, then you take that diameter, you multiply it by whatever the code says, 6 times, 5 times, 7 times, depending on the wiring method, and it can't be tighter than that. It has to be at least that, okay? So a lot of people will come and do these installations because they think it looks right. They think it looks neat, is to bring their NM cable up, and I know you do it. I've done it back when I was in the field, not thinking about it. They think that turning right angles is neater. Come straight up and turn that sucker tight through. Not actually. I don't know of any inspector that would fail it, but again, if you start doing really sharp 90s everywhere, it's going to beg them to say, well, does he follow the rules in 334.24? And we do have values, and we're going to go look at that. But in this case right here, these nice sloping bends, especially with a cable that's interlocked, for example, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to blow out this back side. And the reason, and you don't want to cause it to pinch in here, and we don't want this to pinch in and then have these sharp edges inside of it, which are normally not sharp because they're interlocked. They're kind of rounded over. But if you bend this too tight and you cause this to bend in, then what it can do is it can actually damage the conductors inside of it. The good news for like an MC cable, you have a polymeric wrap or a denser paper wrap inside that can give a little bit of a cushion for that. When it comes to AC cable, you do have also your paper wraps, your jute that wraps around. When it comes to NM, same scenario. You got your equipment ground in the middle that's wrapped, and that comes from the standard 719 requiring that. And then, of course, you have your individual conductors that could be wrapped. And then, of course, you have an overall bounding, which goes around it all. That's to keep the extrusion from soaking down into those interstices between the conductors. Keeps it nice and kind of oval, if you will. But bending them too tight can damage the actual conductors inside, but can also damage the sheathing. And we want to keep that sheathing intact. Now, interesting thing about MC cable and AC cable, there is no available on the market fix for a damaged MC cable. Did you know that? There is no on the market. And the reason I say this is a lot of times where you have this problem of blowout and damage is when you try to bend. You've done it before. You know, you guys have seen this. Whereas you're trying to do large size with 500 KC mills in it or 250s or whatever MC. Very nice, large. It's heavy. And it doesn't bend, and it takes a long bend in order to get it. But people try to get it in this and get it tighter to get it over into cabinets, whether they're running it in parallel or whatever they're doing. And then you run the risk of those convolutions popping loose. And when the convolutions pop loose, now they pull apart, and you get this slinky effect, right? And now these conductors are exposed inside. The people ask us, they reach out to the manufacturer, they say, hey, manufacturer, how do I fix this MC cable, this AC cable? And the AC cable doesn't get large, so we don't have to worry so much about the AC cable, but the MC gets large, and they go, how do we fix it? And there is no recommended fix from the manufacturer. It's your cable. You bought it. It's your responsibility, okay? What do you think that the manufacturer may say that may not make you happy? The manufacturer may say, oops, you damaged it. You got to replace it. Well, if you've just run 100 feet, 200 feet of a large scale MC, that is the last thing that you want to hear. Also, the owner of the project, maybe it's a data center, a Google, or some big project, they don't want splices. They want it to be as complete and as long as possible, right? So they don't want the splices. And so what do? Well, you got to get creative. And there is things that you can do. You can try to bring that MC back together. And then what you can do is wrap it in metallic tape around it, because you haven't lost the integrity. The armor's still there. And if it's MC, you're not using it as an effective ground fault current path anyway. You're using it for bonding purposes. So bring it together, and then you may be able to wrap it with the metallic tape, a couple layers of metallic tape and that type of thing. But typically manufacturers aren't going to give you that advice, because we don't want to make a recommendation about metallic tape. We don't want to get involved in that. You shouldn't have damaged it. Okay. So don't come to the manufacturer wanting the manufacturer to fix your mistake. You get what I'm saying? They're not going to do it. They might say splice it. They might say replace it. Things like that. Okay. But I am not aware of any aftermarket fix. Now, I created one. I did a drawing for one. I was going to get a patent for it. But Encore did not want to support it at the time. They said, look, we're not in the business of making repair kits. We're in the business of making wire and cable. I get it. So again, Prismium may feel differently. Maybe I'll resurface this to Prismium or whatnot. But at the end of the day, they wanted nothing to do with it. So there are now you bought it. Okay. So you can work with an engineer at the comfort level, and you can come up with, maybe putting a jumper over it. Okay. Clamp on either end and jumping a wire over it that may be equal to the size of the equipment ground that's inside of it. They may be able to, kind of like what you do with when you do a bonding jumper over an expansion joint where you may have FLNC or something, you do a bonding jumper over the damaged area and then make it look pretty. Or they may be just happy enough, since it isn't really broke, bringing it close together. And then, like I said, using this very heavy metallic tape. It's available and it's conductive. But again, the integrity of the MC is still there. It didn't break. It's just spread apart. Again, we're not going to endorse it. So don't come back to a manufacturer and say, hey, will you honor it under your warranty? Because any manufacturer should say absolutely not. We don't have a problem with it, but we're not going to extend any warranty. Okay. Hold on for a second. That's the one thing I hate about TikTok, is it's like they have this timer that cuts off. All right. So anyway, those are my thoughts on that. You work with manufacturer. People that call me know that I do have experience in tips and tricks and things that can help. But as a manufacturer, we're not going to put that in writing anywhere. You get what I'm saying? What's up, Bill? Glad to have you here. Van Man, I see you in here. David, I see you in here. All right. Well, let's go back and listen. So this is what's called the radius right here. Okay. Just keep that in mind, what that means. Okay. All right. Now, all bends shall be made so that the cable will not be damaged. If I've been to some forensic applications where there's been an issue, there's been a fire, and I'm asked to look at the system, and these are stuff that I'm looking for. Whether it causes a fire or not, these are the things I'm looking for. I'm looking for bends. I'm looking for, did they do anything that potentially could have damaged the cable? Did they do anything that could have overly pinched it and created possibly an issue where it weakened the conductive material to create a hot spot? I'm looking for all this stuff forensically in your installation. So I'm looking at it as I'm walking this project. So last thing you want is me to come out on a project. I'm just saying, if there is some issue. Now, incidentally, MC cable, for example, is 7 times the OD, right? So let's look at this example here. We're going to look at it in the code. So here is some MC cable. So here's what it says. The curve, or let's look here. So here is the MC right here. And here you see AC cable is 5 times the diameter of the cable. NM cable is, again, 5 times the diameter. So remember, NM and AC, the same, 5 times. MC cable interlocked or corrugated, we're looking at 7 times, okay? Now, there's also another called smooth, and that has an other bending radius, but that is basically it's like a thinner, for the lack of a better explanation, a thinner like an EMT, but a thinner, and it's an extrusion, okay? And it has a different bending radius value. The most used MC, for example, we'll use an example, is MC interlocked. Is probably by far the most metal clad cable that is used out there, okay? Now, we're going to go look at we're going to use the example of MC here, and then we're going to go look at NM so you can read the language because it is a little different. All right, so here, if the outside diameter of your MC cable, which is, again, provided by the manufacturer, or you can caliper it, but I would just get it from the manufacturer. It's easy. Just go get their cut sheet. You'll get the outside diameter, okay? And remember, the diameter is from edge to edge across the MC, okay? So let's say this case, it's a 1/2 inch diameter. Okay. Remember, one of the things that we always do, and you know this, y'all followed me for years, is we always want to convert this into a decimal value for calculating. So divide the 1 into the 2. That's how you get to 0.5. Okay. All right. So that is 0.5 inches is what we're going to be utilizing here. And then the radius will need to be measured, a measurement of 3.5. Okay, so this radius right here has to be 3.5 all the way here at round. So you start from here, measure out 3.5, and that's what your maintained radius has to be. Okay, now how do we get that? We took the 0.5 times 7, which is the OD, and that's where the 3.5 came from. Now, logically, what's the diameter? Well, the diameter here is going to be 7 inches, okay? Because its radius is half of that, okay? But, so it's basically, if you think about this, when you say maintain a radius, it's basically visually, it's like wrapping it around. So if I had to maintain a 3.5-inch radius, it's like wrapping it around a 7-inch diameter ball or baseball or softball, whatever it would be. Okay, Coke can, side of a Coke can. But that is what we're doing. We're looking for that radius. So from the point, we're looking for this radius to make sure that it is not less than 3.5. Can it be more than that? Yes, but because that means it'd just be a more of a radial bend, okay, more elongated out. So we don't want it to get tighter than this, okay? So we measure, make sure it's from the start of the bend to the end of the bend. We want to make sure it's basically clearing a 3.5-inch radius, that type of thing, okay? Now, one of the way to maintain this, really be honest with you, because MC is kind of tough, is it measure from your framing member out. If it's a 3.5, measure out 3.5, and it should be right at the edge of the MC. And as long as you turn it and come out and you make sure that the middle of that bend is out 3.5 inches, then gradually turn it in, you're going to have no problem meeting that radius, that type of thing, okay? Now, with that said, same concept, okay? But let's go look at when it comes to non-metallic sheath cable, that type of thing, because these are the two bigger ones that come into play. So in non-metallic sheath cable, we'll go 334. And remember, obviously, it's going to be 24. So here's our bending radius for non-metallic sheath cable. Notice this gray, this kind of tanned out area. This is a 2023 NEC, by the way. So this is just giving clarity to something that we've been telling people this forever. But, sometimes people don't listen. And so it kind of had to clarify these things, right? So here's what it says. It says bending types NM and NMC cable. And by the way, folks ask me all the time about NMC. NMC is, the C is for corrosive resistant type of NM cable. None of the manufacturers that I can aware of, nobody makes an NMC. You would use UF-B for this application because UF 340, Article 340, has a provision that allows you to use it as long as you meet certain parameters, obviously, of 334. So you're installing it like it's non-metallic sheath cable, even though it's UF cable. You can still use it inside of a building, and that's fine. Okay, and it'll say follow the parameters of 334 for the installation, okay, rather than reinvent the wheel, that type of scenario. So it can be done, but nobody makes NMC. You're saying, well, why is it still in there? Because they could still make it. Now, y'all remember there used to be an NMS? Well, the NMS disappeared. Why? Because now it's called NMPCS, Power Control and Signal. And that's the one where you got the power conductors and you got the 0 to 10 control and signaling conductors cabled in it with it. That is a specialty product, that type of thing. So the NMS went away. And again, now you have just type NM and NMC. But again, none of the manufacturers that I'm aware of make NMC. They just tell you to use their UF for that application. Make sense? Okay, now back to the NEC here. It says, bends in type NM and NMC cable shall be made so that the cable will not be damaged. Okay, so that's the first thing that I'm looking at when I come and there's an issue on site. What's up, Santana? Glad to have you here. I see your new place. Glad to have you here. Beans Garage in the house. Glad to have you here. So first thing I look at is to look at the cable and see whether or not it is damaged or not, whether it's been bent too tight, that type of thing. Remember that case I told you about that I was the expert witness on in Oklahoma? One of the big issues in that facility was the bending. And I wasn't hired for that because, again, I had a conflict of interest because that building had Encore wire in it, that had South wire in it, it had Zero, it had everybody in it. This is a 20,000, whatever it was, square foot built home. This is huge. So I wasn't there as an expert for the wire and cable. I was there as an NEC expert with a heavy disclaimer that I'm not talking about the NM cable. However, I can talk about what the other folks that were there as experts were, and they were some electricians that were there, and that they actually were pointing out the fact that there was so many bends that were just really, really tight. And one of the concerns that they had is, what does that bend have on something that is very sensitive, like a GFCI or AFCIs? Can that impact it? My issue was distance, voltage drop. Their concern was all these tight bends that were in a violation of 334.24. Numerous, very tight bends. And so since there was no testing, when he presented that, their expert had no way to counteract that because no testing. So he didn't do the testing to say that was a problem, but he rose it up as a plausible issue with the impedance and all those type of things. So again, unless you can refute it, it was right there in the record. I didn't do that, but I'm just saying all those things matter. And there were a lot of tight bends on some cable. Also, a lot of staples that looked like they were driven by, I don't know, Zeus. They were so tight. I was like, wow. I'm glad I wasn't there to comment on that because you don't have to drive staples that tight, folks. Really don't. It doesn't even have to touch the sheathing and be fine as long as the cable doesn't move, stays in the center of the stud. That's all it's there for. You don't have to drive this shit to King Timbuktu, okay? I'm just saying. Anyway, those were a lot of problems. So anyway, let's get back here. So let's go. It says now, okay, so that's the first part. Next, it says the radius of the cable of the inter edge of the bend during and after installation shall not be less than 5 times the diameter of the cable. Okay, so bending it, right? Now it says, now for flat cables, that is when they're specifically calling out the elliptical type of cables. So this 5 times, it applies to the round, like you get a 14.3, when now a lot of these 14.3s are flat and all. But in my day, most of 14.3s are plexed, that type of thing. 12.3s are plexed. So again, it's 5 times the OD of the cable. Again, you can get this stuff from the manufacturer, not brain surgery. Every manufacturer puts the OD on their cut sheets. That's a no-brainer. And then it's talking about, okay, now what about those flat cables, like 12.2s, 14.2s, 10.2s, the flat style, okay, which is wider than it is thick, okay, basically oblong. All right, what about those? Well, now we have a clarification, and I want to think that this is thanks to Ryan Jackson for submitting. I want to think it wasn't any wire and cable manufacturer. I can pretty sure you that I think that he wanted them to be clear. Now, we in the wire and cable industry always knew this, right? We always knew that it needs to measure, obviously it needs to measure the flat side. No way would we measure the thin side, the flat side, okay? But it seems like everybody's like, well, you know what? You're not being clear on how this would be, all right? So to clarify it, that's why sometimes we make changes in the code. We want to clarify it. So here's what the code said. It said, for flat cables, the major diameter dimension, okay, of the cable shall be used to determine the bending radius. All right, so the 5 times, what value are we going to use? Well, we're going to use the long dimension, the flat side, not the edge, the flat side, okay? And all manufacturers will provide this on their product cut sheets. And of course, you can measure it yourself. You can caliper it, you can do a ruler, you can do whatever you want and measure it yourself. But again, it's 5 times. So whether you bend it on its edge or whether you bend it flat on the flat edge, it doesn't matter. We're measuring the radius, the inner part. It cannot be less than 5 times the OD of the non-metallic sheet cable assembly. And if it's the flat style, right? If it's the flat style, then what you're going to do, and I think we dropped on Master the NEC. I think we lost our stream over on Facebook. So if you're over on Facebook, I believe we've lost your stream over there for some reason. Not sure why, but I believe we have. Let's see here. Let's see here. If I can, let's see here. All right, we lost the other one over on Facebook. So we're losing streams. Okay, so let's, I'm going to stop those because I don't know why we're losing streams. Anyway, so over on Facebook, we've lost you. So that means we're getting to the end here. So apologize if you're over on those streams. All right. So let's see, where are we at? I got distracted. Okay, yeah. Bean says Milwaukee NM stapler for life. Here you go. Those are pretty cool. I don't know that I would get one because, again, I'm just used to staplers, but again, life, work smarter, not harder. All right, so that's what we use to measure, the fat part, okay? Now, why is that important for our installers? Well, that's also important when you think about the bending requirements back on here. So this just happens to be MC cable. But what about the bending radius, for example, when you come underneath a box? So people come and turn it up into the box. There are people that actually come down and then turn and go back up, and then they want this to be all nice and neat against the stud, so they'll smash it on top of each other, and so that bend comes down and it's very tight, and it comes back up. That is not the way to do it. And you're like, hey, I've done 1,000 million, I've done so many homes, Paul. You're over-exaggerating. There's never been a problem. I get you. I get it. And the old saying is, it's never been a problem until it's a problem. Nobody ever got electrocuted underneath a crawl space until somebody got electrocuted under a crawl space, and now we have a code change. The code is what it is, okay? So at the end of the day, it's much easier to just follow the code rather than have something happen, and then somebody gets hurt, and then they forensically have somebody come in like me and is going to look at that and going to say, even if that did not cause the fire, if it's a violation, depending on which client I represent, we're going to find a way and say, okay, it is what it is. That contributed to it. Maybe that increased the amount of resistance, or in this case, AC impedance. I don't know, but that's the kind of stuff that we're going to analyze, okay? It just is what it is, whether you like it or not. It's how it's going to happen. Okay, so that's kind of the bending radius requirements. Now, last one I want to show you is for tray cable, because this is where a lot of people get confused with tray cable as well. So I'm going to come up to, oh, by the way, SE cable, just so you're here, bending radius, here it is in example right here, bending radius for SE cable, okay, there you go, 5 times. It's very much like non-metallic, so it's easy to remember, even though it's SE, think of it the same as AC, think of NM, 5 times the diameter. And again, for the SEU, you have the same ruling here, use the flat cable, use the major diameter, and that's the fattest portion, not the edges, but the fat long portion, kind of the portion where they put all the writing on it. How about that? That's easier to do that, okay? And then for tray cable, right here, 336, I'm gonna get you down to bend radius, and here you see it is a little more broken out. Now, manufacturers will give you recommendations for bending their tray cable as well, but you really don't need their recommendation. It's pretty simple. Come down here. Okay, so bends on type TC cable shall be made so as not to damage the cable. That's a no-brainer. That's a protect all of us statement. Then it says type TC cable without a metal sheathing. Okay, so that's normal non-metallic type of TC cables. Okay, the minimum bending radius shall be the following: 4 times the overall diameter for cables that are 1 inch or less in diameter. And again, manufacturer's going to give you all this. Don't have to stress it. 5 times the overall diameter for cables that are larger than 1 inch, but not more than 2 inches. Okay, the manufacturer's giving you all this. And then the next one says 6 times the overall diameter for cages that are 2 inches in diameter. Okay, for larger than 2 inches in diameter. Okay, now if it has a metallic sheathing on the TC cable, in that scenario, then what you got is you need a minimum bending radius of not less than 12 times the cable's overall diameter if it happens to be have a metallic shielding on that tray cable, okay? So straightforward, not brain surgery when it comes to maintaining it. Just make sure you understand that you do maintain it, okay? All right, that's a lot of information about bending. I'm sure y'all don't violate any of these things. I am more than sure that you guys install everything perfect and none of this stuff is an issue for you and that you've never damaged a cable or a conductor. I appreciate that. But we're going to go do some drawings now. We're going to give away some goodies here. This is the last drawing for this quarter, the second quarter. I will let you know when the drawing is going to be. It'll probably be in the next week, but you'll know because the show will be titled The Drawing. You do not have to be present to win. We have all of your names. We'll be drawing them out of a hat. And again, we'll have a specific email that you will send your information to. That way, everything moves much quicker than we did last time. We'll give away some goodies, and we're going to have some new stuff for the wheel in the third quarter giveaway. Okay, a whole new revamped wheel with some giveaways, a lot more courses because people have been asking for more of the courses, that type of thing. And we're going to do some preliminaries for the 2026 programs that will be coming out. Also, we're going to have a lot more of the flashcards that are going to be added to the wheel. And Kens, right now we have the topics of the NEC article and things like that. Well, we're going to expand on that to other types of flashcards that are available. They're just nifty to have. They don't expire. They're great to have, and they've been very popular. So we're going to make sure we add those to the wheel as well next quarter. So some great things. We'll see if we still have any wire waffles. We'll ask Hunter if he wants to send us any more wire waffles. And if we still have them, we'll give away what we can give away. So this is your last time to get a hashtag win before I start the spin. So go on and do that now. And again, only works over on our social platforms. And sorry, the folks over on Facebook, the stream dropped. I don't know what happened. Don't blame me. Blame Facebook. All right, let's go. Spin the wheel. Last time to win this quarter. If you're over on TikTok and you want to spin to win, you got to come over to the stream. Speaking of the devil, all right, you're in the drawing for the NEC flashcards. Let's see here. Just a nice little refresher. It helps you remember the different articles, and it just makes you more fluent. And if you do it once a day or once every other day or once a week, it just keeps you fresh in the code articles. And it's just going to make it easier in the real world as well, not just for exam prep. So it's a nifty little flashcard set. If you already have a course, it's already going to be in your console if you win, that type of thing. Okay. All right, let's do this again. Manny Sanchez, you are in the drawing for Trade Hog. And by the way, folks, Trade Hog now, again, a lot of people don't like the monthly thing. We do give you a discount now if you want to do annual, right? And so you can now, you can switch to an annual subscription. It's a cheaper rate and you get access to it for a full year. That's all available over on Trade Hog. For those that don't know what Trade Hog is, it is our AI model to help you in the field, answer technical code questions and all those type of things. And if you're a basic or the premium member, you also get access to Office Hog. I use that daily to write letters, articles that I customize. I use AI technology. I have to manually go through and alter things because I want to add my own stuff, but we use it a lot. We use it, I ask a lot of, even at the tax season, I asked it a lot with my tax accountant. I ask the questions on Trade Hog a lot using Office Hog, which is a tailored model that's a little different than the normal Trade Hog. That's called Office Hog. It's included with the basic and premium program. Okay. Paul Santana says, keep winning, keep spinning until I win. All right, let's see here. All right, spinning again, giving away. These are the last ones for this quarter. This is a good time to pick another design if you win, because we have multiple designs. One of the newest designs is this one. So if you're in the fast tracks or you've had any of our courses, this is it shows this NEC Code Strong Fast Tracks family, and you can have your name put on it. I love my minimalist wallet. They're just as good as some of the big names that you heard out there for 50 and 60 bucks. Just as good. The only recommendation I'll make, and I'll make this with any of them, if you get one of these, is I would back out these screws, put a little Loctite in there, and then put all the screws back in. Okay, they hold up pretty good, but again, that's just my recommendation for longevity. Other than that, they're fail safe. We've never had a strap break. Like I said, I use mine all the time. It's the only thing that I'll carry, and mine is actually the Fast Tracks family one. That's the one that I use. Okay. All right. So you're in the minimalist wallet drawing. For those that are interested in one of those wallets, customized with your name on it, your company name, whatever, any significant moment like your licensure date, check them out over on our website, fasttracksystem.com//shop. Or just go to the website. You'll see it. All right, let's spin again here. We actually have a special running on those too. $15.95. You don't get to choose the color. Okay. Yeah. You got another one here, Rob. You're on the drawing. You're on the drawing now for one of those NFC cards. These are becoming really popular. People are buying these, and I know there are a lot of people are doing this to support the show, and I appreciate it. This is a limited edition. These are our NFC cards. It's got our information about the show. You can share with people around your job site, all those type of things. It comes pre-programmed with all of our stuff on it, all of our shows, everything. But you can reprogram these if you happen to win these and put your own company on it if you want. That's up to you, but they come programmed with our coffee hour information and all of our shows and courses, because if you decide to leave it, you can promote us at your job site or tap other electricians' cards and say, hey, I got something you need to watch. You become our own little supporters of the show. We appreciate it. And I think that's why a lot of people are actually buying these to help support the show. And I appreciate it, but you can win one right here. So hopefully you're in the drawing for that, Rob. All right. All right, let's do one more. This is the last one today. And Jason, he says at 100% on a Loctite. He had to do that with his Ridge wallet screws. Absolutely. It doesn't matter which type of wallet it is. I would not pay 60 bucks for one of these. I would pay what we have. These are just as good with the money clip. And it is a strong money clip. I love mine. Check them out over on our website. We'll customize them. And you have different options of what you want on them. Okay. And just remember at checkout, please just put what you want engraved on it so that we don't have to keep communicating about it. Let us know in the comments what you want on it when you check out on one of those. There's an area where you can add stuff, notes. Make sure you let us know what you want engraved on it. All right, so let's do the last drawing. This is the last drawing for the quarter, right? Let's go. And we'll have new music. We'll have everything a little bit different maybe for the next quarter. Change around a little bit, maybe. I don't know, I kind of like the looks that we have, so. All right, Jonathan, I think you already have the Fast Tracks tube, which again, by the way, folks, we did add 4 more videos the other day. And that type of thing, and it's always evolving. It's never ending, adding. So Jonathan, if you want to spin again, because you already have this, I'm more than happy to spin again for you. Just let me know. And if you want to spin that wheel again, I will definitely do it, because you may already have, or you may already be a subscriber, or you may have gotten your Fast Tracks tube with your enhanced purchase. Okay, spin it again. All right, let's do it. Let's see, let's spin this sucker again for Jonathan says, spin that sucker again. Oh, by the way, anybody that wins the wire waffle, if you already got one, let me know. We don't want to send you multiples because we want more and more people to get to use these. All right, Jonathan, we got you down is the 20. I don't know which program you're in, but this is a 2023 NEC Enhanced. Okay, so you haven't won it yet. You're in the drawing. For those that actually in the drawing for something, and if you win it and you already have it, then what we'll do is we'll put you on the list so that when we come out with the 2026 program, you can choose that. So we'll put your name, set it aside, and when the newer products come out, we'll give you a choice if that's what you want to come out with that. So people ask me, when is the 2026 going to come out? It's not going to be for a while, so relax. It's going to be a while down the road, okay? We still haven't finished developing it yet. It's still in the works, that type of thing. So anywho, there you go. Some people have asked, are we going to have videos? Let me get back to a couple questions. So there you go. We're done. Congratulations to all those that are in the list for the drawing. Don't worry. We're starting a new quarter tomorrow. We'll start quarter 3 giveaways. I think it'll be started tomorrow. We may not have spin the wheel the rest of the week while we're getting things, because we have to still determine, Jeff, me, Darlene, I have to determine what prizes are going on to the wheel for the third quarter. So again, bear with us with that. So I don't know. You don't come here for that anyway. You come here for me, right? That's the only reason you're here. I get it. But at any rate, what was I going to say? I was going to tell you something. And I got totally sidetracked. I do this all the time. Totally got sidetracked. Anyway, whatever that may be. So we appreciate you joining us. That is the spins. We're going to have a code change seminar at some point here in the next couple months, probably, talking about code changes. So look for that on the website. I think we have a calculations webinar coming up in July. So go check that out. I don't remember it. It's over on our website. Look under on the navigation. You'll see that for the webinars. Let's see. What else do I need to tell you? Oh, if you know of a company, if you work for a large company that it has issues with pull calculations or want third party, reach out to us. Let us know. We'd love to get pull specs started for your company. You're not going to need it if you're a small shop or a medium shop that doesn't do lots of long pulls and arguing with engineers who don't want to do these calculations, and the manufacturer says they'll do them. But that's not really the manufacturer of wire and cable. They don't know a lot about raceways and stuff, so they don't know the nuances, especially when factoring in certain things. So if you want a third party, let us know. If you don't, that's okay too. We're fine. All right, folks, congratulations to everybody. Let's see here. Let's see. Everybody that is in the drawings, okay? And we're going to have to separate these names out like we did before. They're front and back, and get these names separated out into drawing sheets. And Jeff will be working on that. And it's going to be much simpler this time because if you do win, there's going to be a special email that you're going to send your information to, and you're going to get special instructions for that. So again, it's going to make it easy peasy, all right? But don't worry, the winning will start again soon for quarter 3. And we have possibly some new coins that we're going to be adding to the wheel, that type of thing, all right? All right, folks, I appreciate you taking your time. Again, thank you to all the birthday wishes. I'm working today like any other day. I don't stop and celebrate stuff like that because you know what? I'll have more than enough time to celebrate when I'm old. I know you young guys say I'm old now. That's not the case. All right, so till next time, folks, stay safe. God bless. And join me tomorrow for another coffee hour and another lesson. Take care. God bless.